This week, we have Raffy Williams from the RNC telling us we're going to have how many debates this presidential cycle, plus some great interviews from the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference and past travels. Here we go. Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on K98.
Roger, 3-2. Goliath copies all. Go ahead. The target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo. And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing? Gene Baradelli here on a gorgeous New York day, back from the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference in Philadelphia. I want to thank everybody that came out to the conference to check it out, see what was going on. We'll be talking about the conference a little bit during the show. We'll also be playing some interviews we had during the conference. We had a great conversation with Raffy Williams from the RNC, the Deputy Press Secretary of the RNC, talking about what the road to 2016 is going to look like. We also talked with Mike Rounds, the president of the Williamson College of the Trades. You don't know what that is, I guarantee it. But after the interview, you're going to want to talk about it with your friends. It has to do with education, the conversation that we had, and how the Williamson College of the Trades could be a back-to-the-future moment when it comes to education reform. But right now, let's get to the interview we did with RNC Deputy Press Secretary Raffy Williams. Take a listen to this. Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines here at the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference in beautiful Philadelphia. And I'm joined right now by the Deputy Press Secretary for the RNC, Raffy Williams. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me.
And listen, before we begin, I just want to let you know, I'm making it clear right now, I am not running for president. I'm going to be one of the ones to actually say I'm not running. This field is growing exponentially now. What do you make of all this?
I think it's great. It makes me excited. You know, I sit there and look at whether it's Rand Paul, Cruz, Rubio, Bush, you name it, Walker. They're all great having this conversation about what the best direction is for our party, right? They agree on basically 80% of the issues where they're arguing over the 20%, but that 20% is important. How do we take the country? Which direction's best? Which direction's best for the party? And that's a conversation that needs to be had. That's why you have primaries. And this is the strongest primary we've seen in years. I mean, decades, right? So it's exciting. And then you look at it and you juxtapose it to the Democrats, where you have Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, right? It's really not much of a choice. And Democrats aren't very happy with the policies that Hillary's laying out, but they don't have a choice. We as Republicans have a choice. I think it's the most impressive part about it, and it's the thing that gets me excited every day.
It's a high-quality field as well. And like you were saying, you have every section of the party represented, whether it be Tea Party, Libertarian, Social Conservative. They're all there, and the ideas are being exchanged. But what happens when the rubber meets the road and you have to merge all these lanes into one lane? Are you afraid or apprehensive about people going home and staying home once their horse is out of the race?
No, because I think, the end of the day, you realize, okay, I had an argument, I had a conversation, I made my case, we had our standard bearer up there making the case, let's say he lost, but you know what? People voted, the party decided, not the party, but the voters of the party decided, and that's what matters, and you know what? At the end of the day, they're going to be more conservative than the left, and at the end of the day, they're going to get more things done than not, and you have to respect that process.
Another thing that we're seeing this year that we haven't seen in past years is a really good integration of big data and especially social media now becoming more organized. I walked in on you with a discussion with some people from Twitter about how to arrange and schedule everything properly. It seems like this is going to be, we talked about 2012 being a big social media election. This coming election is going to be the big one, I think.
It just gets bigger and bigger every year. Every time you think there's not another new item that can come out, there is a new item, and it surprises us all, whether it's from Periscope and Meerkat to Snapchat. Like, Snapchat now has a news division. right? It's kind of blowing my mind, and trying to get your ideas around how to utilize it, how to leverage it. That's why I was talking to this Twitter guys about, is how do you leverage most of the stuff that's going on? Cause it's so fast that I can barely keep up. And it's really exciting. People are going to take social media to the next level, and the way that they use it now, candidates use it to issue statements practically. I mean, this is a level we haven't seen.
This is the first time we've seen every candidate have an opening video.
Yeah.
Before having an announcement. Just something that was unthinkable 8 years ago.
But it expands the reach. I mean, give credit to Hillary Clinton here. She had Michelle Kwan live streaming her kickoff launch on Periscope. That kind of stuff is becoming the norm now, and it's a good way to reach more of your supporters than you can just fit into a hall.
But it feels like the GOP has a better handle upon that now than they have in past years.
Oh, for sure. We put a big focus, $100 million investment in our data and digital team. And so we really get it. We're putting a strong emphasis on it. And the real emphasis is the stuff that you can't see on social media. It's on the nuts and bolts of data, how to use it, how to access it, and how to analyze it, because that's the most important. We have a treasure trove of data. The hard part is understanding it all when you have so much information coming in.
All right, so now when you are going around, obviously, different parts of the country. I'm sure you're going to Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, all these places now. What are you seeing from the grassroots, though? Are they excited about the primary season and the debates coming up? Or are they apprehensive about it in the sense that, oh my God, we have so many people here, it's kind of sensory overload?
Well, it's a little bit sensory overload, but they like it as opposed to the opposite, right? In New Hampshire, for instance, you've got Hillary Clinton coming in doing staged events. People can't talk to her. People can't access her. And they're saying, you know what? Every day I have a Republican come and knocking on my door asking for my vote, saying, can we talk? And that access, they're loving. It's a lot of information to take in for sure, but people are enjoying it. They're enjoying the experience, and that's what it's about, because they're saying this is exactly what a primary should be.
It sounds great. We're looking forward to the debates, guys. Now, how are we looking as far as how many debates are we going to be seeing as time goes on? I'm assuming it's going to be at least 6 to 8.
Right.
Probably
So
more, right?
we have announced 9 with 3 that are to be determined in the case that the election goes longer, the primary season goes down the road. Whether those are going to be used or not is a good question. I think they probably will be in the long run, but right now we have 9 announced debates, and it's something that we're really excited about. It's about 1 a month starting in August.
It's going to be a crazy season with a lot of people, a lot of good ideas exchanged. And for anybody who wants to follow what's going on with the RNC, of course, at RNC is the place to go where I get all my information from Twitter. And, I'm sure the chairman is going to be going down to D.C. for Road to Majority and all these different places. You guys are going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
So, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yep.
Drink a lot of water. Make sure you keep limber and stretch out before you do everything.
Yeah.
And we'll be seeing you on the road. Thanks a lot, Rafi, for coming on the show. And tell people if they want to follow you on Twitter and all the places you're on.
Yeah, it's at Raffi Williams, R-A-F-F-I Williams on Twitter, and you can email me at rwilliams@gop.com.
And for those of you who checked out The Hill, yes, he is that beautiful. Okay? I'm sitting in front of me, I'm getting a little nervous. Raffi Williams, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that was our interview with Raffi Williams, the Deputy Press Secretary for the RNC, giving us a preview of what's to come this summer, this fall, and probably into the winter, and probably into the spring after that, for the road to 2016. Lots of debates coming your way as the field grows more and more. You see, to me, this is the problem. We are going to end up with another quagmire like we did in 2012 with the way we're going right now. We're going to have more people on the stage, obviously more people announcing. Scott Walker hasn't announced yet. Just to name one. Chris Christie hasn't announced yet, to name another. Both of whom did very well in the straw poll at the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference. There's a whole bunch of backbenchers that have announced. I'm thinking about people that we haven't been talking about, like George Pataki, and they're in the field. And they may get on stage on different debates, depending on what's going on, and the different campaign strategies. And we're going to end up with a situation like we did before. No clear majority coming out of the early states, and it may be a problem for the GOP as we move forward. We're going to take a little break right now, and when we come back, a little commentary from the the Northeast, I should say national, yeah, right, the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference, and then that interview with Mike Rounds from Williamson College of the Trades, and maybe a little more commentary and stuff from me after that. Gene Baradelli, Behind the Enemy Lines. We'll be right back, right after this.
It's important to plan ahead for emergencies, like the storm. When it kicked in, we had a plan.
Separated.
We were able to get in touch with each other in no time.
Idea how to find each other.
The whole experience was fine.
The most frightening 10 hours of my life.
If there's one piece of advice I'd offer other moms out there, it's to stay calm and keep to the plan.
Message.
Some parents plan ahead, some don't. Make sure you know where to find your family in an emergency. Start your plan at ReadyPA.org, brought to you by ReadyPA, FEMA, and the Ad Council.
Hey, how you doing? This is Vito.
And this is Vito.
We're here from the Vito and Vito Show.
And we're excited to be on War Radio with our newfound hero, Wayne Dupree.
We're just two college Republicans with a mic and a computer, and thanks to Wayne, here we are.
Wait, where are we?
We're on War,
the #1 political news station on Live365.com.
Who might you save?
Your mother, your father, your husband, uncle, aunt, son.
Learn FAST, F-A-S-T, the sudden signs of a stroke, and you could save.
Your friend, teacher, boss.
F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. F-A-S-T. That's F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. The sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in the recovery of
your neighbor, the waiter, grandmother, grandfather.
So learn FAST, the sudden signs of a stroke, then pass it on, because you never know who might save you.
Your wife, your colleague.
Spot a stroke fast. Visit strokeassociation.org, brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Behind Enemy Lines. Back on the air. Gene Baradelli back behind Enemy Lines, and I want to thank Rafi Williams for taking the time out during his extremely busy schedule when we were at the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference to take the time to talk to us. So we really appreciate it. And just a quick note before we get to the next interview with Mike Rounds from Williamson College of the Trades. Just a quick note about the straw poll there. We did an article on our blog, www.behindenemylinesradio.us, talking about the straw poll results and what they mean for candidates that are running and those that haven't declared to run yet. For those of you who don't know, Scott Walker won the straw poll at Northeast Republican Leadership Conference. Kind of surprising, but maybe not so much. The top finishers there were Walker, Christie, Rubio, and Jeb Bush came in 5th. Now, this is during the same week where Jeb Bush is starting to, pull away in some other polls out there. But if Northeast Republicans, which a lot of people consider rhinos, let's be honest, if the Northeast Republicans are not with him, they're with Scott Walker, they're with Chris Christie, they're with Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio wasn't even there. And he finished better than Jeb Bush. If they're, still split among them, and Jeb isn't, pulling away from the pack from these hardcore voters in the Northeast who may not decide the presidency, but may decide the nominee. What exactly is this saying to Jeb Bush? Could he be a little concerned? I mean, the national polls, obviously, everybody's going to point to those. And it's important that we point to those. But what does this mean for Jeb if these hardcore, obviously they're voters, obviously they're active Republican Party members. What does this mean to Jeb that he couldn't win these people? Part of it is because he didn't show up. I'm sure that's definitely part of it. I think he went to Road to Majority down in D.C., as did Marco Rubio, but Rubio did better, as my phone dings off probably with a news alert, but whatever. But, Rubio did better than him, and Rubio didn't show up. Yes, Christie and Walker, they were there, they held receptions, the whole deal to court voters from the Northeast, and you can expect them to do well in a straw poll like that. But what does it say to Jeb Bush? Should he be concerned? I'm not so sure anybody should be concerned at this point. But instead, there it goes again. See, this is the life of someone who's in the know in the news, I guess. Yeah, right, I'm really fooling myself now. But, yeah, what does it mean to Jeb? If he's winning nationally, but he's not winning in the Northeast, does he really care? I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal because when it comes down to it, the Northeast is going to be blue. We know that. So if Jeb is not winning over Republican voters in the Northeast, it's not a matter of a popular vote. It's a matter of who wins what states, right? So maybe Jeb is right for not showing up. Time will tell. But let's get to this interview. This is a great interview, by the way. With you don't know who Mike Rounds is. You don't know who Williamson's College of the Trade is. After this interview, you'll be happy to know that vocational education may be making a comeback when it comes to education reform, and that's what they're doing in Media, Pennsylvania, folks. Take a listen to this interview. Mike Rounds, Williamson College of the Trades. You're going to like it. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines, here at the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference, and I'm joined right now by Michael Rounds, the president of Williamson College of the Trades in Media, Pennsylvania. Michael, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Gene.
So listen, we were having a discussion beforehand about what the school is. I think it's exciting for something to highlight for the show. Why don't you explain to the audience what Williamson is?
Well, Williamson, right now it's called Williamson Free School of Mechanical Trades, and Governor Corbett actually helped us get some legislation passed to change the name July 1st to Williamson College of the Trades. But the school has been around for 127 years. It was founded by a philanthropist here in Philadelphia named Isaiah Williamson, who was a Quaker, he said, I see these poor young men in Philadelphia with no future, and I want to, free of charge, build them a school where they can go be educated, trained in a trade, moral and religious development, all to become useful, respected members of society. And so when he passed, he left an endowment to build the campus. In 1890, that was completed, and for 100-some years, it's been taking underprivileged young men in a very strict and regimented environment and provide them great training in a trade and an education that leads to great careers. So currently we have about 400 applicants. We can bring in about 100 young men a year. We are we have a lot of interviews and things guys look at to come here, but the financial needs is very important. The average family income, taxable family income per family member of the 100 kids we brought in the last couple of years is under $6,000 a year. We turn away a couple hundred really good kids just because their parents make a little bit more money. But the great part is it's a very disciplined. Before I took this job as president, 25-year career in the Army, including teaching at West Point, working at the West Point Prep School. It's run like a military school. It's very regimented. They're up early in the morning. They have to shine their shoes. They stand inspection. They go to chapel in the morning. And then they spend 4 hours a day in their academic classes and 4 hours a day in their trade. The most recent job fair we had 103 companies paying $150 a table to try to hire our kids, and we only had 73 seniors. So every kid that comes through the program, and 75% of them graduate in the 3-year program, they have multiple job offers when they go out, because not only the character and leader development piece of what we present at Williamson, but the skills that they're getting in masonry, carpentry, machine tool, power plant, those kind of skills are what people are needing right now, and they're not available out there. So people are falling all over themselves to hire our guys when they graduate. So it's a great mission.
It's a great story to highlight, because, and we were talking about this before we started the interview. There is no such thing as a vocational high school anymore, at least where I live in the People's Republic of New York City. Mm-hmm. This is so refreshing to hear, because we're hearing about a great program that's helping kids just get on their feet on their own from the start in the secondary education level. It's so great to hear something like that this still exists in the world.
And unfortunately, it's unique in the country. There's no other school like it that gives kids these full scholarships, and they come from need.
Now, why is it unique? Why has vocational education kind of fallen off?
Well, I think for a lot of reasons. I always tell the story. When I was a lieutenant in Germany, I had a German Audi, and it was German specs, brought it to the local garage, and when I first went there, I was amazed at seeing the mechanics looked like research scientists, and the garage was like pristine. It looked like a laboratory. And you look in their society, about 10th grade, they'd say some of you are going to university and some of you are going into technical trades. But they recognize a difference in the skill sets, not one better than the other, both important in society. In the United States, I think, since World War II, everyone thinks the only path to success is a 4-year college. And so they've gone away from looking at the trades is a good thing to do. That's what you do if you're not qualified to go to college. And what we're finding is that's absolutely not true. It's a much different skill set. The guys are very good with their hands, and most of society now is needing these skilled tradesmen, and they're not out there. Why are we not training that?
Yeah, just back to what I was going to say. Why are we not training them? People's passions go in different directions. You can have a passion for a white collar job, and you can take the career path that hits you to college and graduate program or law school or medical school, whatever the case may be. But others have different passions to use their hands, to make, to create, to build, and that's not really fostered in our educational system right now.
It's not valued. In fact, when we go into high schools to talk about this opportunity, a lot of times the counselors don't want to talk to our guys because we're a trade school and they want to send people to college. Now, the name change of Williamson College of the Trades is going to help with that because they will get an associate's degree. But you really see when you're walking around this career fair where there's 30 more companies than there are prospective candidates, and then you talk to the students and you say, you're coming through here, not with no debt and a guaranteed job, and your high school buddies have one more year of college and $60,000 in student loans and may not get a job. So you tell me who's better off.
See, this would be the type of thing you would love to hear from a presidential candidate up on a stage at something like the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference, exactly, or a CPAC, or any other conference, Road to Majority, whatever's going on now. Do you think that there is a candidate out there that may be able to champion something like this? Because when I think about something like this, I think of Rick Perry. I think of guys that really work with veterans issues, because veterans are usually the people that work with their hands the most, and maybe see the value of a program like this. Is there a way to highlight this issue for the candidates? Because, we hear Jeb Bush about Common Core, and we hear about people talking about Common Core for and against, but we never hear about people saying using secondary education to create jobs.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm looking for, too, Gene, is somebody to recognize, that this model is important in society. We need to train highly skilled tradesmen. But, the other piece that I think, in a bigger picture, and Republicans, I think, understand this more, our school doesn't take any government money. It doesn't take any government. It's founded and based on the charity of others, and it works because we have a passion about it. And I see, in today's educational, there's so much bureaucracy and so much politics. The idea of just throwing money at it and it's going to get better, it doesn't work. And I think that's what is beautiful about our school, is that we can still say part of our program is go to chapel every day. We do it. That's a requirement. And why our school is unique? Probably because we never went down the road of taking government money, because we wanted to stay true to the deed of trust that Mr. Williamson set out there for us. But,
well, yeah. It sounds like an amazing program, and it sounds like it's something that could be a model for other colleges of the trades to be created throughout the nation. So now, do you think that education is going to be a primary issue, a secondary issue, or something further down the line when it comes to what others are looking for in their presidential candidate?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think for most people it's going to be a secondary issue, and that's part of the problem. And I think if it doesn't get more of a spotlight, then we're never going to solve our problems. And I think one of the reasons that people are starting to look at our model is because of how bad off the public school education system is here. And it's embarrassing, and it's wasteful, and the kids aren't getting educated, and it's not meeting society's needs. And I think that's why we'd love to see somebody take up this cause to say we need more technical education. We need more tradesmen and skills like that to help, as this economy continues to recover and get better, right, and industry expands. Most of the people in our trades that are trying to hire are saying all of our workers are 58 years old, and we don't know where we're going to replace them with when they retire. And so I think there's a real chance. We had some gentlemen, major CEOs of companies from Green Bay, fly in December and say, we want to build a Williamson campus near Green Bay. We think every big city should have a Williamson because it gives an opportunity to underprivileged young men. It's high standards and great training. And then, something that the society needs, these guys to go out and take these jobs in the skilled position.
Well, it sounds like a win-win to me, Michael. I'm so glad that you stopped by the show to highlight what really is an underreported issue and to really bring to attention. This is something I never heard of before, and I'm loving this. I think this should absolutely be expanded everywhere. Everybody, check out Williamson, easy for me to say, .edu, Williamson College of the Trades in Media, Pennsylvania. Michael Rounds, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thanks for highlighting this issue for us. I'm sure our audience got a real education, no pun intended, about what's going on. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Gene.
You are Behind Enemy Lines. We're going to take a quick pause for station identification. Behind Enemy Lines on K98. Gene Baradelli, back behind enemy lines. We are here at the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And joining me at this conference, I couldn't stop him from traveling with me. He actually jumped into my car and said, "Take me with you." Vito Palmieri from the Vito and Vito Show. Vito, take a look around you. We're at like a mini CPAC almost.
Yeah, okay, mini CPAC, my behind. This is mini Rhino Land. What is this?
So it's RhinoCon to you.
This is RhinoCon. This is no conservative CPAC convention. Come on.
Well, listen. Let's go through some of the names that are here.
All right.
That are pretty conservative. Rick Santorum, conservative. Scott Walker, conservative.
Okay. Don't forget Karl Rove. Don't forget Lindsey Graham. Don't forget
Lindsey Graham couldn't make it because of the tragedy in Charleston.
But he was scheduled to be here.
He
True.
was.
But
Steve King, conservative.
Okay. George Pataki is another one, very rhino-ish. Chris Christie scheduled to speak later on. Carly Fiorina, another rhino. All of these rhinos are showing up.
A rhino?
Yes, she is. She's no conservative.
Joni Ernst is scheduled to be here. Conservative.
There are some good conservatives here, like Steve King.
So you're backtracking already, is what you're doing.
What I'm saying is, this is no mini CPAC. I'll give you that much.
Okay,
Where's
fine.
Cruz? Where's Pauls? Where's the shapeshifters in this party?
But doesn't Cruz go to CPAC? I mean, not Cruz. Doesn't Christie go to CPAC? Doesn't Steve King go to CPAC? I mean, come on.
But who shows up to listen to the speakers at CPAC? Conservatives that listen to conservative icons like Cruz and Paul. They pack a room at CPAC. Chris Christie speaking later on, and nobody's here. This is a very quiet conference.
You know what? We've had a couple of people come to our tables here on Radio Row, and basically me and the Vito and Vito Show, we make up Radio Row for this. There's a couple of other radio shows here.
That's right.
But, we decided to come here because, of course, we are on WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance station, and we want to get the feel for the people here in Philadelphia and the neighboring areas to see what they're thinking. Get the finger on the pulse of Pennsylvania, basically, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that a lot of these people in the Northeast are Republican rhinos. These people are moderate Republicans who want a government role in education, want a government role in healthcare, want the government's role in a lot of these things. I am a conservative, a libertarian conservative, someone that wants the government out of almost everything.
But, okay,
and guess what? Majority of, the conservative base believe in that same ideology.
All right, so basically what you're saying is, these are the people here that vote for the laundry, no matter who's wearing it.
These are the people exactly. These people will vote for a person no matter who gets a nomination. They'll vote for Cruz, they'll vote for Hillary. They'll vote for Cruz, they'll vote for Paul, they'll vote for Bush, because they are the people that firmly believe that if there's an R next to their name, that they're much better than a Democrat. Well, that's nonsense, because conservatives don't believe that.
Right,
conservatives do not believe that logic.
What conservatives do is they go home.
That's right, because they're not going to sit there and sacrifice their principles. That is why conservatives are the best.
So sacrificing their principles, they're sacrificing their nation.
See,
that's what it comes down to, right?
Okay, so let me get this straight. So either I vote for Democrat or I vote for socialist.
And by the way, just playing devil's advocate here, folks.
Sure.
I am a conservative, and I believe a lot of things that Vito believes in.
Mm-hmm. I
think I'm more socially moderate, and Vito's I think is socially moderate as well. It's not really about the social conservatism. It's about the libertarian,
free markets,
small C conservative, right. Not the party or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I get what you're saying, but you got to remember, conservatives need to vote, and they need to show up for who will best match their principles when it comes down to it.
Exactly. So let's get somebody who is conservative in principle and who's going to actually shapeshift this party. Listen, 35% of the people who identify in the Republican Party as the base are conservative. 35% are conservative. If you run Lindsey Graham, you run Jeb Bush, you run people that nobody wants to see, that 35% ain't coming out. And they're not sacrificing their principles because they didn't do it with McCain and they did not do it with Mitt Romney.
I hear what you're saying, and as I'm looking around the crowd here, it's a diverse crowd. You got a bunch of young people here, a lot of young people who are working here, and that's pretty cool to see.
I know.
And then you get a lot. There was a couple here from Minnesota that came down to this. Lots from obviously the tri-state area. Mm-hmm. And I think what they're looking to hear is not so much. They're here to hear some candidates, yes. But there's a lot of good stuff here on the program that have to do with retail politicking and data. And while I think some of it's going over the heads of some of the people here, there is a concerted effort right now in the Republican Party to get the word out about how to quantify and find your electorate, which is a good thing.
Well, that's good. And what are these numbers telling us?
They're telling us that people are skewing conservative more than they are skewing moderate.
There we go. More people are skewing conservative. So let's get conservatives in office and stop running moderate Jeb Bushes. Look, if you support Jeb Bush for 2016 already, John Kasich and all these other moderates to claim that they're Republican and try to reform this country and scale back the debt and, completely reform our fiscal house, it ain't happening. You gotta vote conservative because those are the ones that are actually gonna do things. Look at Cruz. He goes all the way on Obamacare. He went all the way, Rand Paul went all the way in the filibuster for the Patriot Act. I haven't seen Jeb Bush stand up and even talk about the trade deal that, President Obama's pushing.
He's a Brooklyn Italian and he talks with his hands. He's Vito Palmieri from the Vito and Vito Show. If you're listening on WNJC, Fridays at 1 p.m., same time as this here show, just a day after, because they're always a day behind me. And, give them a listen, and VitoandVito.com, of course, is the place to go when you're not on www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. Vito, what are you looking to see out of this conference? Bottom line, I think we're about halfway through it now.
Okay.
What are you looking to see from people coming out here? Are they supposed to have their minds made up about who they want, or are they supposed to still have an open mind out of this?
Well, I'm looking at the beautiful young women that are walking around the conference
easy
here.
There. And by the way, memo to all you young women, the tan heel is the clear heel of politics.
That's right.
Just so you know.
Uncle Vito's looking out for the tan heel.
Oh, that's horrible.
That is terrible.
But it's true. I mean, listen.
Told you I'm a
people
libertarian.
watching is part of, I mean, being seen and seeing people is part of what these conferences are about. People want to be seen to show that hey, I know what's going on in the party and I'm active and all that. And people want to see, okay, who's here and who's not here to know who's a serious person or not. I mean, should Ted Cruz be penalized? Will he be penalized in the Northeast because he didn't show up to something like this?
He's going to be penalized anyway.
See, that's the thing. That's exactly right. He's going to get penalized anyway because he's seen by these type of people here as someone to be scared of, not someone to support.
That's what I like, because, see, this is what this election is going to come down to. It's going to come down to like a reflection of 1964. You got Barry Goldwater, conservative, grassroots icon. People really, really like this guy, right? A shapeshifter. And then you got someone like Nelson Rockefeller, Henry Cabot Lodge, George Romney running for the Republican nomination in 64. And they basically run around and say, we need to, those extremists are bad. Goldwater's bad. We need to work with government, and we have to work with Democrats and compromise. Well, this is what's happening today, is we're seeing that exact debate occur again with people like Bush, Kasich, in my opinion, Walker, Rubio. I think those people aren't true conservatives. They're not fighting for those principles that Cruz or Paul are fighting for.
All right, well, you're going to get some great interviews for us on the Video and Vito show from here, right? I know you did one already with Bunny Fleischer. It was pretty cool.
She's running for a position as sergeant?
Sergeant at Arms.
Sergeant at Arms, exactly. It was a really cool interview about the Second Amendment,
Absolutely. Look forward to that tomorrow on the Vito and Vito show at 1 p.m. And it's right here within your listening area at WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. Time for us to take a commercial break here on Behind Enemy Lines. But before we do, listen, we get it. For those of you listening on WNJC 1360, we know we're up against Rush. We have no illusions whatsoever that we get crushed in the ratings every time we're up against Rush every week. We get it. We know. We understand. Heck, we listen to him on the commercials too. But when he's on commercial, come on over to us. We're the new kids on the block in talk radio. See what we have to offer. Give us a listen. Maybe you like what you hear. Maybe you get so angry that you call and you write us on social media, either on Facebook or on Twitter at BEL_radio, to let us know, hey, you guys, that's not cool. Whatever the case may be. Give us a chance, give us a listen, and then you can go back to Rush. But give us a shot. Gene Baradelli, Behind Enemy Lines, will be back right after this. The show will be right back. But first, a word from Al Sharpton.
Good evening, Rev. Thanks to you, Ed. Is this Groundhog Day 2? We are watching that was Attorney General Eric Holder, ABDs, about some Republicans at home are already beating the drums of war. Today, the Pentagon refuted that claim. And he said the American people do not want him to, quote, dwindling, they do not want him dwindling his thumbs. You can get a gig as a contortionist. Intravenous fluids and pills coated with gelatin. We don't leave our women or men in uniform behind. It's a monument to the hubris of Dick Cheney. Representative Raul Labrador. Years of abuse. I personally apologize to Mr. Peebles. Just ask to soon-to-be former Congressman. Democrats are outright jitty. CIA's counterterrorism center. Veteran Affairs Secretary Shinseki. Why do I always mess up his name? Shinseki. I love my critics. I have fun with that.
Politics Nation with the Reverend Al Sharpton starts right now. Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, Dr. Dyson.
But wait, there's more.
And we will much about that be committed. So there's no real conflict. Michael Druniski Juniak, including Lincoln himself, Daniel Day-Lewis. Behind Monica Lewinsky, the one and only Trey Songz is here. But Allison Lundergan Grimes, Gina De Jesus, when Gina De Jesus, Tea Party challenger Matt Bivens. People don't want to have their Social Security overall. The Republican savior, Mark Rubio's big night in evolution and Galileo. I mean, this whole thing of Galileo. America's changed. Unless IT and Skillets, President Putin doing something similar back in, it won't change this fundamental fact about the GOP. Just how absurd these attacks is. Nearly 6 months after the dangerous traffic jam, the Thai military says, my friend for many years, Ilyana Van Zandt. There's nothing there.
And all we can get is an internet show? Let's get back to it. Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines. And listen, I want to thank everybody who helped make our coverage from the Northeast Republican Leadership Conference happen, including Paul Engelklemeier, who handled our credentials and got us some great interviews from some local people. It was really a great time. We really enjoyed ourselves. I want to thank everybody from the Pennsylvania GOP for hosting the event and for really making it something that I'll definitely go to next year. It was a lot of fun, guys. You should definitely check it out. Really close by in Philadelphia, in our listening area for WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station. I also want to give a shout out to, of course, We Are America Radio, where I'm right here. I'm broadcasting live on the show. The #1 political talk station on Live365.com. Right now what we're going to do is we're going to shift gears a little bit. We had so much great audio from all the trips we've gone to that I haven't been able to play on the show a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce an interview we did. It was myself and the Vitos, of course. You know, the Vitos, they always kind of follow me wherever I go on these trips. It's a lot like babysitting, guys. You got to change them and feed them and clothe them. Anyway, I digress. This was a great interview we did with the Independent Women's Forum's own Julie Gunlock that we did back earlier in the year. It seems relevant to me to bring this up because we've been talking a lot about it in the context of this Confederate flag stuff going on because of the Charleston shooting, and we always have a continuing discussion about political correctness, overregulation of government intrusion into your life, and how nonsensical it can get. Well, you know what? It goes even further than what we've been talking about in the news lately. There's an overriding movement, incrementally, as Russ Gallo likes to point out, of government slowly coming in and intruding into your lives and trying to tell you what's best for you because they know better than you. So here's the interview we did with Julie Gunlock. It's a really good one. I'm kind of ashamed of myself that I haven't played it sooner. But for more information on the Independent Women's Forum, go to IWF.org. Check out our interview with Julie Gunlock. Gene Baradelli behind enemy lines. I'm here with the Vitos. You're invading my show now. Don't you have enough to do on your own? But you know what? In all honesty, this takes 2 shows for such a great guest. Julie Gunlock from Independent Women's Forum. Thanks so much for doing this. We've been waiting for you for like a year to come on this show.
I've been waiting even longer to be on your show.
Well, listen, we love all the work that everybody does at Independent Women's Forum, and we always love highlighting everybody. We had Sabrina Schaefer on last year and everything. I love the idea that we're talking about this culture of alarmism. Yep. And it's something that we've had other guests, especially like the wacky warning labels and things like that. Talk a little bit about this cultural alarmism, and we see it in New York all the time. If you've been to Central Park and you see a child on a leash, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think with this harsh winter, we've seen the most sort of current example is no sledding. You're not allowed to toboggan down hills because I mean you're not a moron if you're going to sit on a platform and go down a hill. You should know that there's some risk involved, and so now there's all these sort of citywide bans on tobogganing and sledding. And look, what we talk about at the Culture of Alarmism is that it's not only sort of these regulatory things that that cost people their own freedoms, but it really makes things less fun. We've become a much more boring society because we're making everything so dang safe. So that's what we really try to get at, not just talking about the regulatory burden of a lot of these it's good for you regulations, but how it makes us, frankly, a lot more boring.
I come from the generation where you didn't have the sled toboggan. You had the garbage pail lid, and you took that down the hill. Right. Go ahead. Vito, you got something, right?
I want to ask, can you tell us about what you just wrote, from cupcakes to chemicals, how the culture of alarmism is making us afraid of everything?
He knows how to plug.
I will definitely take any opportunity to plug my book, which is available on Amazon.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Thank you very much. So this book, I actually, part of the motivation of writing this book was I had a child. I had my first child in 2007, and suddenly I was just bombarded that, with information that everything from his pacifier to his food to his crib sheets to his pajamas were going to kill him, and it was really overwhelming for me. So I wrote this book to reassure mothers that, look, there's a lot of environmental activists, a lot of anti-industry activists tell women that these things are scary, and a lot of it is to get women to sort of buy different products, to create a market for us, to create a demand that really there's nothing to be afraid of, and women shouldn't really change their shopping habits because they've been told something's harmful when it's not.
Well, this is the product of trickle-down government, though, because we're talking about a government, especially, we come from the People's Republic of New York City where they want to ban 20-ounce sodas.
Exactly.
And, the nanny state is out of control in our area.
You're too stupid to make decisions for yourself.
Why did you look at Vito when you said that, though?
Oh, Gene, you're so funny. Julie, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Now, we could expand this over to, government getting involved in, school lunches and stuff.
Absolutely.
You see the stuff like in that mystery meat. Vito loves it, but it's not my favorite type of thing. Because I don't know what's in it, and I have to ask you, when stuff like this pops up, when you see these ridiculous chemicals and things that go into food, it's all the government basically trying to keep you safe.
Okay, wait, but let's talk about.
And I agree with you, by the way, 100%.
But look, there's a lot of fear out there about. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, kind of the narrative that, there's all these terrible chemicals in food and there's all these terrible preservatives. And we have to remember the root of the word, and the whole point of the word preservative is that it preserves things from actual pathogens that can actually kill quite swiftly. These are bacteria that will kill you. There is a reason we have a safe food supply. There is a reason we have very low rates of foodborne illnesses, and that's because we put trace amounts of chemicals in processed foods. This keeps the food on the shelf longer. Look, I'm not going to sit here and go, you should live on a diet of Cool Ranch Doritos and Diet Coke, okay?
It's like you know me.
But we have to realize that in this country, that preservatives that are put in food, it's not there just to poison you, okay? It's there to keep the food on the shelf longer, which allows that food to be sold at a cheaper rate. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about taking these things out, that's going to have a higher impact on the poor in this country, and really harm people that are on a budget. So I hate to sort of demonize all the chemicals in the food, because again, it really creates the very the great food supply we have in this country.
You know what? It really does we talk about trickle-down government. It also trickles down into your pocketbook. Mm-hmm. And the point you're bringing out here is a valid one to me, because, yes, you should protect people from harm.
Yes.
But you shouldn't protect people from choice.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the point.
And you also shouldn't protect people from it seems unsavory, or it seems like, look, I wish that we could all feed our children fresh vegetables and fresh fruit and have everything and buy everything from Whole Foods, but some people can't. And so I think we need to remember that there's a difference between unhealthy and unsafe, and things that, maybe the wealthy and elite don't eat, but it's not actually harming people. And I think that we really need to make those distinctions.
Somewhere Mrs. Obama just went, what?
I know. Look, yeah. But as far as the school lunches are concerned, I think you're absolutely right. I think, and I don't want to go over my time here, but I think you're absolutely right. And what we see with the school lunch and the expansion of the school lunch program is, again, more of this: you're incapable of taking care of your children. So we need to cede that responsibility. We need to pass it over to the federal government. Let's not forget, it's not school lunches anymore. It's school breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have expanded the school dinner program from 13 it originally was 13 cities, then it went nationwide, and now they're expanding it even further to even rural areas. So, the government has taken a larger role in feeding our kids. And again, I think the message is parents are too addled, they're too stupid, they're just incapable of doing it.
She's the director of the Culture of Alarmism Project for the Independent Women's Forum and the author of From Cupcakes to Chemicals, How the Culture of Alarmism is Making Us Afraid of Everything and How to Fight Back. Julie Gunlock, tell us how we can get in touch with you and all the websites and social media and all that good stuff that these kids have been teaching me for a couple days now.
You can find everything about me at IWF.org, as well as a lot of other great authors and writers. And we write on a lot of things other than culture of alarmism. We write on healthcare and all issues are women's issues. So we write on a whole slew of things that I think your listeners will be interested in.
So glad we finally got you on. Thank you so much for doing it, Julie Gunlock. And that was Julie Gunlock from Independent Women's Forum. I'm so happy we're able to play a lot of these clips for you. All the clips that couldn't make it for our post-travel shows. When we travel, we meet so many great people, so many great organizations. We want to be able to highlight them all. And the fact of the matter is, there's only so much time to do so. So when we can, we're happy to do it, and this happens to be one of those weeks where we all had time to do it. Folks, while I got you listening, be sure to check out the official website of this here show. That's www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. We redid the website to make it a little more user-friendly for you, so definitely check it out. Also, check us out on social media. Behind Enemy Lines Radio on Facebook. Like us, please. We're needy. And also follow us on Twitter at BEL_radio. Yes, we do the social media thing, not as often as other people do, but definitely check us out when we do it. It's kind of a blasty blast. We're going to move on to another interview that we did. But before we do, I want to thank everybody for listening to the show, especially if you're listening on our newest affiliate, Red State Talk Radio. It's great to be part of that organization. There's a lot of great programming on there. And if you're listening on Red State Talk Radio, thanks for giving us a shot. We hope we like what you hear, and we hope you keep coming back to us. The next interview we're going to be playing here is another one that kind of made the cutting room floor, but we want to highlight it now because it's important when we're at the halfway mark of the year to see where the direction we wanted to go was and how we are doing on the road in that direction. We were talking to Patrick Hedger, who is the policy director for an organization called American Encore. It's one of the newer policy organizations that seems to promote legislation and wants to bring awareness to conservative issues. And their platform is pretty simple. Protect free speech, promote free markets, restore fiscal responsibility, and return America to greatness. And Patrick outlined his roadmap in 2015 for what legislation they were targeting. Now, when listening to this interview, I want you to think about where we were back then, what our goals are, and where we're headed to now, whether we're meeting those goals. And we'll have a little discussion in the chat room. By the way, folks, if you're listening to this on replay, when we broadcast Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on We Are America Radio, we have a chat room set up that people can participate in, interact with me when I'm on the show. When Russell's on the show, we interact with him as well. And just to keep the flow of the show going, we use some of the comments from the chat room to facilitate the conversation that we're having. This show is more than just us talking to you. It's you talking to us as well. So when you can, Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on We Are America Radio, check us out, join the chat. We'll be chatting back at you. Here's our interview now with American Encore's Patrick Hedger. Take a listen. Gene and Russ, Behind Enemy Lines, and we are here now with the policy director of American Encore, Patrick Hedger. Patrick, why don't you tell us what American Encore is and what you're doing here at CPAC?
Yeah, absolutely. American Encore is actually a new organization that's dedicated to the ideas of American freedom, looking at all the way from free speech, free markets, and free enterprise. And you look at public opinion polls right now, the average American voter is saying, we're worried that we're leaving a country not as free and as prosperous for the next generation for the first time in U.S. history. Our goal is to combat that and actually put policies into place that will leave the next generation better off and more free.
Sounds great. And you just gave us, and we love wonky stuff. We are all about the wonk on this show. You gave us a copy of the blueprint for 2015, setting the stage for the next session. I guess these are policy recommendations that literally we just got them in front of us for legislation that you want Congress to pass, from everything from jobs to federal spending and all different issues, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we cover 6 major categories of economic policy, and these are policy recommendations that are based on legislation that had already been passed in the House, largely already been passed in the House and just went to die in the Senate at the feet of Harry Reid. And a lot of these ideas, they're bipartisan, but they're still consistent with conservative values. And we think, 2017 is still too far away. It's important to show the American people that conservatives are the party and group of ideas today.
All right, so let's get down into some of the issues that people care about. Of course, one of the things at the top of the list is Obamacare. Is American Encore's position to repeal or reform?
Absolutely repeal Obamacare, but that's going to happen in 2017. There are things that we can do today to begin making things better for the average American voter. That is repealing the medical device tax and preventing any future insurance cancellations from occurring.
Okay, and let's get into another topic.
Well, but even with something like that, do you guys envision that we can actually get 60 votes in the Senate? I know Republicans control the Senate, but it seems like we still can't get anything through that body.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. I think on medical device, you could easily get there. You see a lot of medical device states, like Minnesota, for example. Al Franken has come out against the medical device tax, so you actually would find even some left-wing Democrats that would be on board for repealing something like that. But even if these things do get to the president's desk and he vetoes them, it shows that conservatives are actually pushing legislation and that the president is the one that's obstructing.
Well, I think that's what we're going to see in this coming year. We're going to see the president become more obstructionist than anything else. Let's get into another issue that's important, and apparently, we talk about the Keystone Pipeline and energy resources and how we use them and how we allocate them. What does American Encore say that we should be looking for in 2015 to pass to improve our energy independence?
Well, what your listeners need to know is that Keystone XL is just the tip of the iceberg. The Obama administration is obstructing energy and fossil fuel infrastructure projects all across the board. We're talking about coal export, mining, LNG exports, and exploration for oil and natural gas. Actually, production on federal lands, which is where 40% of our energy resources are in this country, is down over the last 5 years. That's inconsistent with what we've been seeing from the private lands in the private sector. And so we need to know is that Keystone is just actually one front in this war, and that Congress actually needs to pass broad-based energy permitting reform that will prevent executive branch agencies from sitting on these permits and never approving them.
Has the coming down of gas prices actually affected your guys' position on this?
No, not at all. I think we can actually probably lower prices a little bit more, and it's important to lower the regulatory costs, and that lowers the production price for these companies because they're still jumping through hoops and dealing with all sorts of red tape, and they're dealing with government inefficiency. That adds cost to our energy producers. If we're able to drop those costs, then their production break-even point comes even lower, and gas prices can fall even more.
Okay, one last topic before we let you go. We're talking about the blueprint for 2015 with Patrick Hedger from American Encore. Job creation. Mm-hmm. There's a whole section in here that I've been going through right now, and part of job creation I see is that you tie it to welfare work requirements.
Yeah, absolutely. The government gets what it pays for, and if it pays people not to work, they won't. And there's no reason now, if the Democrats are claiming the job market is better, there's no reason to have all sorts of different exemptions that they've granted for welfare work requirements that were put in place by a bipartisan majority and signed by President Clinton.
Well, can you give us some of the requirements? Because I think a lot of people would jump on board with this. They just need to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Several states have applied for waivers. You still have the plurality of states that have applied for waivers for the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, that's TANF. And then they've gotten rid of the work requirements for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is food stamps. So you got to put those things back into place. You saw that when they shortened the long-term unemployment benefits and they got rid of the extended benefits, we saw an increase in the labor force participation rate. I think you'll see a greater increase if we get rid of put these work requirements back into place.
So vis-a-vis job creation, where do you see this whole idea that people have been talking about of Obama trade, the Trans-Pacific Partnership? Is that something that we should be for, against? What should be our position on that?
Well, I come from I come from a personal position that free trade is a good thing, and free trade is not something that is bound by special agreements. You have free and open trade with all nations, and if you have to have secret agreements behind closed doors, that's inconsistent with free trade principles.
Absolutely great. Listen, tell everybody on the show right now how they can get in touch with American Encore, if there's any efforts that they can do to support you, social media, websites, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Like I said, we're a new organization, so we're still starting to build our social media base, but you can also find us online at www.americanencore.org, and you can get a free copy of the blueprint for 2015 there.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm going to be thumbing through this. Most people will go through this and maybe look at the first couple pages. We're going to go cover to cover on this. This is really cool.
Absolutely.
All right, Patrick Hedger, Policy Director of American Encore. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. That was really cool. Yeah, take it back. Yeah, absolutely. That'll do it for us, folks. I want to thank Patrick Hedger and American Encore. Go to their website, AmericanEncore.org. Check them out. They're doing a great job. And give some thought about where we're going here. No time for Buffoon of the Week, guys, mainly because last week ended up in a tie. We're going to keep it going for another week. Who you got, folks? Rachel Dolezal or the paid supporters that came out for Donald Trump's announcement? Time for us to go. Thanks for listening. We're out of here.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. Part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. A Rock Radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.